In this video, we're going to see how to solve polynomial and rational inequalities. I do want to remind you, we had a video on quadratic inequalities where we made sign charts. Right, so sign charts, you had the number line, you had parts that were pluses and minuses and so on. And it turns out that is the exact technique that we're going to need for this section as well. So if you remember sign charts, you are good to go. If not, we'll see them again right now. So the first things first, when you're doing a sign chart, you always have to get it to be 0 on one side of the inequality. That's because you need to differentiate between positive and negative. And so plus and minus, so that's based on 0 here. So you get everything to one side. Once you have that, you're going to go ahead and factor it as much as you can. I can start by doing a common factor of x. Then I can do a difference of squares here. And once you've got it all factored, you just take each part separately, set it equal to 0. These are going to give you your x-intercepts on your graph. Or in terms of our sign chart, these are the places where you could possibly change between positive and negative. And you mark those on your number line. So once you've marked them on the number line, in this case we've broken the number line into 4 separate pieces. We need to go ahead and figure out which ones are going to be positive, which ones are going to be negative. So you're going to pick a number in each area. So I'll pick 1 for this particular part here. And I go ahead and I plug that into my inequality where I had 0 there, and I see 1 cubed minus 4 times 1 is negative 3. And since I get a negative there, that means this whole area between 0 and 2 is negative. Then I go ahead and try a number, let's say x equal to 3. That would work out for this side here. I'd have 3 cubed minus 4 times 3. That's 27 minus 12 is 15, but all we really care is that it's positive, which means everything to the right of 2 is going to be positive. And you can keep trying numbers. So for example, you try negative 1 here, it's going to be positive. And then if you go ahead and try like negative 3, you're going to get negative. Now I know that without trying it because what are the multiplicities of each one of these numbers? All of these have multiplicity 1. And if your multiplicity is odd, then at that value, it's going to switch between positive and negative. And since they're all multiplicity 1, it's going to always switch positive, negative, and so on. And that's how I know we're going to have these positive negatives without trying them. And if you know about your multiplicities, then you get to skip all the extra work and just plug in a single number. And once you find one of these, whether it's positive or negative, you can get all the rest. Now once we've got our sign chart done, we need to get our answer here. And our answer was, where is it greater than or equal to 0? Well, that's going to be from negative 2 up to 0. And then from 2 up to infinity. Those are the parts that are positive on my sign chart. That's a polynomial inequality. Next up, we have a rational inequality. We got our fraction there. Now I want to say, do not try to clear out denominators. It's not a good idea. It's not going to work. What you want to do is leave it alone and just factor everything as best as you can. So this will factor out nicely as x minus 2, x plus 1 times x plus 2, x plus 3. Then you're going to take each part separately, set it equal to 0, and you're going to get all these different x values. These are all the x values that you're going to mark on your number line. And so on my number line here, I mark 2, negative 2, negative 3, and negative 1. So for my 1 value here, I'm going to plug in 0. And I go again over to this left-hand side here. Now you can use the factored version or the non-factored version, whichever is easier for you. I'm going to use the non-factor to be 0 minus 2 over 0 plus 6. I get a negative 1/3 again, which means it's all negative there. then notice that since, again, all our multiplicities are 1, it's going to alternate negative, positive, negative, positive. So I can, not to put in any more time and plugging in numbers. Again, if you don't like the multiplicity trick, you can feel free to just plug in numbers in each one of those ranges and see when you get positive or negative. And the last thing we have to do is look at this. We're looking for the negative parts of this. Well, that goes from -3 to -2, and then from -1 to 2. However, you need to be careful here. I'm looking for the places where it's less than or equal to 0, which means bringing equal to 0 is fine. I'll put a bracket there. However, this is a fraction, and you can never be 0 on the bottom no matter what. So the -2, that came from the bottom, which means no matter how hard we try, we cannot include -2 in our answer. So -2 has to have a parentheses. Similarly, -3 also came from the bottom, which means -3 also has to have parentheses. But it's okay to have 0 on the top, so these become brackets, and this then would be your final answer. So it gets a little bit trickier when you have the fractions, but the main idea of the sign charts is still the same. And the last example for this video, we have 1 over x plus 3 is greater than 1. I've seen a lot of students that will start with this and say, oh, let's just multiply by the x plus 3. You cannot do that. Let me quickly tell you why. If you're multiplying by x plus 3, well, think about it. If you have an inequality and you multiply by a positive number, you leave it alone. But if you have a less than and you multiply by a negative number, it becomes a greater than. So sometimes you flip the inequality, sometimes you don't. But since you don't know what x is, you don't know if it's positive or negative, you don't know if you should flip or not, and so you just simply can't do it. So when you have a number over here that's not 0, it's going to be annoying, but what you have to do is you have to just subtract that to make it 0. Then you have to get a common denominator, and then you combine it, you're going to have -x minus 2 over x plus 3. Then you take each one of these, set it equal to 0. You're going to get -2 and -3. We're going to mark those on our number line. I'm going to go ahead and try 0 right here. I'd have -2 over 3. It's a negative value, which means everything there is negative. Again, all my multiplicities are odd numbers, so it's going to alternate negative plus negative. And I'm looking for the parts that is positive, so that means the answer is going to be -3 to -2. And in this case, both of them are going to be parentheses, because the -3 from being on the bottom, but also the -2 because on top it would be 0, and we only want it to be greater than 0, not greater than or equal to 0. So it's going to be parentheses for both sides here. So again, the key idea for solving all of these inequalities here is your sign charts, and you really need to practice making them, otherwise you're going to have a lot of trouble with these problems.